Welcome back, MTG Joe here. Today we are going to be doing kind of a video that I've done sometimes, but it's off meta decks for standard best of three. Right now the format is Cauldron Hell. We got VVs, we got Pixies, we got Dimir Midrange, but mostly VVs kind of head and shoulders, feels above the rest. There's certainly decks that can win, but VVs kind of playing at an axis that seems quite difficult to combat. I was planning on playing in an RCQ on Sunday, but at Legacy last night, I was talking to some folks that were going, and it seems like it's going to be a lot of VV there. I don't really want to invest in VV, so I was going to bring Boros Mice. I'm going to skip it. I'll just play Legacy for now while we kind of go from there, but want to take a look, see kind of some unique decks that can give you a break from maybe VV on the ladder. So these will be decks from Untapped as well as MTGO leagues from the last week or so. Just kind of give you some ideas in terms of what people are playing. In one of the previous videos, people were asking when the next potential ban window for Standard is. It is November. So if they were to do an emergency ban, it would be November. That pretty much takes us out of our CQ season for Standard. So unless something very, very unlikely happens, we are stuck with VV for the time being, or at the very least Cauldron, which I think would probably be their ban, just to kind of keep VV around because it's part of Final Fantasy. But in any case, I will paste all these deck lists in the video description if you want to copy paste. Let me know what you think of these types of videos. If you want me to do them more frequently, I'll try to do these once a week if so, but the views and comments kind of dictate this. And just a reminder, folks, we are trying to hit 20,000 subs by the end of summer. It's my summer break goal. We are just a little bit over 1,000 away, so make sure to sub. It's free and helps out the channel if you can. In terms of the metagame, Platinum and Mythic rank, VV is the most played in the last, or for today, Dimir Midrange, Battle Crier, Zori's Control, Pixie, Mono Black Demons, Orzhov Sacrifice, and Jeskai, like synthesizer decks, kind of wrapping it up. But VV in terms of MTGO leagues, like the more tournament-y focused stuff, tends to be performing the highest, along with like Dimir and Esper Pixie. So no particular order, we have 4-color Otters combos. So there's a Storm splitter version. This one here is using the Valley Flood Caller. So how it works is Valley Flood Caller, whenever you cast, so you could cast non-creature spells as though they had flash, and whenever you cast a non-creature spell, birds, frogs, otters, rats get a counter on them, so virtual or +1/1 till end of the turn, so kind of like prowess, and you get to untap them. Notably, with the combination of Enduring Vitality, you can tap your creatures for mana. So effectively, you tap the creatures for mana, you play a non-creature spell, then you tap them for mana again, so you kind of like generate mana in that respect. So you keep kind of popping off that way there. You have Thunder Trap Trainer that can help you dig, Questing Druid helps you dig, and then Storm Chaser's Talent, you can put mana into it to buy stuff back. You have Stock Up to fill your hand, Quantum Riddler draws you cards, and the big thing here is the Song of Token-Zen. This creates a big mana sink, so you can haste out your team afterwards as well. But your rats also work with the Valley Flood Caller, so they can virtually get prowess as well. So the rats would come into play, they have haste, they could tap for more mana and let you keep chaining off in that respect. In your sideboard, you just got like Annuls for Artifact Enchantment, Fire Magic for the Go Wide decks, Dimir, Cheap Removal and a Braid. You have Disdainful Stroke for big mana decks. Fresh Start is kind of a get rid of difficult abilities, stuff like that. You can shut off stuff. Heritage Reclamation, just flexible removal. Negate cheap counters, another Valley Flood Caller if you need to play a little bit more of a flash-oriented game. Growl for the heavy removal decks, and Twin Maw Stormbrood as removal. Mono Black skeleton-ish aggro, 59%. So you have Corpse of the Lost, which gives you a 2/2 skeleton token, and it gives your skeletons a power boost and haste if you descend it on your turn, which means a permanent was put into your graveyard. Then you get to return the spell to your hand, or the enchantment to your hand. So it basically lets you recast it over and over again. You have Sea Souls, Forsaken Miner, which is also a skeleton, Dark Confidant for card advantage. You have Sunset Saboteur, not a skeleton, but just an aggressive 4-power 2-drop that can push through some damage. Timeline Color can come back from the graveyard as well. Arc Enemy Charm is flexible, removal, raise dead, and then just power boost. Karsi Revenant, Evasive Body that can put counters on your other creatures. Elegy Acolyte draws you cards and can create more creatures if you've voided for the turn. And then just Tragic Trajectory, Bitter Triumph as removal. You have Gissa in kind of the Grandier matchups. If you do crimes, then you make more skeletons. It's also got a fairly reasonable reward cost. Leyline for graveyard decks. Strategic Betrayal is good against like VV decks, anything using their graveyard. Long Goodbye for low to the ground stuff, just removal that can't be countered. Feed the Swarm for like enchantments. You have 0 Point Ballad as a pseudo sweeper against the go wide decks. And then Intimidation Tactics, really flexible against VV Cauldron. Duress for like the control-y matchups. Golgari Counters, 57%. So this one here is leveraging Ouroboros. So it comes into play at the beginning of your combat. You put counters where on all your creatures equal to this creature's power. So each turn it kind of exponentially grows. You have things like Innkeeper's Talent and Hollow Merc Siege that can take advantage of the counters. So Innkeeper's Talent puts it on. Hollow Merc can draw you cards. So whenever you attack, or sorry, this one here, you can put a counter on it, or you can draw cards. So kind of flexible in that regard. You got cheap removal in like Shoot the Sheriffs, then just Paw Patch, Elves to help you ramp, Deep Cavern for some disruption, Sentinel could get counters on it through the Explorer, Surik when they're targeting any of your creatures, you get to draw some cards. Surik for anything with heavy removal, Scrap Shooter, Artifact Enchantment Hates, Quarcy for like the aggressive decks, kind of the grindier matchups also can give your things evasion. Graveyard Hate with Scavenging Ooze, Tragic Trajectories, cheap removal, and Duress for hand hate against the slower control-y decks. Mono green Stompy, so similar kind of idea. We have the Ouroboros, we have Ojar on the top end that can kind of cheat into play some stuff. Warden, when you get counters, it lets your subsequent creatures endure and then gets to put counters on things. Terra Symbiosis draws you cards when counters are put into play, 1 per turn. And then you just have like Frenzy Baloth, a good target. You have like kind of pump-esque effects with like Biosynthetic Burst, Overprotect. Innkeeper's Talent puts counters. Probably don't need this many. I would probably just cut these and play the full set of talents. Similarly, I would probably play the full set of Paw Patch or like Hemosymbic Might. This is just a good card to put kind of power boosts onto your creatures. You have, not sure why you have the other Warden in here, but Archdruid's Charm can be used for enchantment hate, fight. You're not really doing any land tutors, so there's probably a little bit better options. This one's a little bit more, I would say, not the most refined. Wear Down just deals with artifacts, enchantments. You can play Heritage Reclamation, Graveyard Hate, and then some more protection effects. I would say the Golgari version's a little bit more refined than this one here. Temur Dragons or Temur Smuggler's Surprise. So Smuggler's Surprise for whack a mana can cheat into play cards. So I think this is like a Shahar Shanhar kind of adaptation, but basically you are ramping early with Llanowar Elves. You have Overlord of the Hauntwoods. You can play Lumbering World Wagon as well, potentially. You have early removal in Dragonfire and Torch. And then what you're trying to do is get to enough mana, Smuggler Surprise in, and then you have like Bloomvine Regent that could come in to gain you life, Meringue River Regent, you have your Overlords, Ureni can blow up a bunch of stuff, you have some Mugens on the top end, Vaultborn Hydra draws you cards, gains you life. Summon Bahamut as some removal, go wide decks, you have another Ureni to cheat in, activated abilities, you have Tishana, low to the ground, like artifact decks, you can exile all artifacts, so if you run into like Synth or stuff, Dragonfire, just more cheap removal. Now notably with this it's exile, so good against VV. You have Negate for cheap counters, Heritage Reclamation, Artifact Enchantment Hate, and Graveyard Hate with Ghost Vacuum, and Fire Magic for go wide decks. We then have Orzhov Ketramose, so Pedrag, usually like see his name a lot, MTGO grinder, so went 3-3 in the top, like the latest MTGO challenge, top 32, but been seeing some variants of this Orzhov kind of Ketramose deck. So we've seen versions of this in the past with like Kaya, but black-white control with a focus on exile. So Ketramose draws you cards. The end basically can edict and steal a bunch of stuff. Feed the Cycle, way to scavenge, so exile stuff out of your graveyard, destroy planeswalker creature. Cease Desist is flexible, can be graveyard hate or destroy all artifacts, enchantments. Shoot the Sheriff is removal, Arch Enemy's Charm is removal that exiles. Split Up, Deadly Cover Up as sweepers, Duress for hand hate, Strategic Betrayal, another way to kind of get rid of the graveyards. Seam Rip, exiles, and then Unholy Annex to refill your hand. Elspeth is kind of win conditions as well. You have Graveyard Hate, Exercise, Artifact Enchantment, Big Things Hate, Get Lost, just flexible removal, Pest Control for the low to the ground go wide decks, Pixie, stuff like that. Overlord for kind of the mid-rangey control matchups, Clarion Conqueror. Usually against these type of decks, your opponent will be boarding out removal, especially against this is good against the Cauldron decks because it shuts off the Cauldrons and the activated abilities of creatures. Pinnacle Star Cage as kind of the new temporary lockdown, and then Ugin for the grindier matchups, just lets you go over the top. Then have 4-color weapons from the Tunneling Cat. So I think this person's done a few 5-0s, but this one's an interesting one. So it is not a synth deck. It is a artifacts deck. And this deck here is leveraging Weapons Manufacturing. So 2 mana, whenever an artifact you control enters, you create a munitions token. When this leaves the battlefield, deals 2 damage to any target. So you can sack him to Legion Extruder to make you stuff. That's kind of removal. You have Enigma Jewel that works as a way to cost reduce your activated abilities. And then you're built around Repurposing Bay as kind of a way to find more permanents. Notably, Phantom Train is your kind of payoff afterwards because it could sack any artifacts or creatures and you put counters on it. So it basically just becomes literally a machine gun train with Weapons Manufacturing. Artifacts come in, makes munitions, then you sacrifice them and you shoot your opponent that way there. So it's just kind of value add stuff. Relic is removal, Kyrogen Relic is card advantage. Gear Drake makes a couple artifacts, and then it allows you to, when you sack them, it gets bigger on itself. Clockwork Percussionist is some card advantage, so interesting kind of shell here. Negate is cheap counters, Chandra as alt win condition. You have Disdainful Stroke in here as a counter for bigger stuff. Ghost Vacuum or Graveyard Hate, Flood Mod, cheap interaction. Litho Breaking could be a sweeper, then you're just sacking your artifacts. Annul for artifact enchantment counters, and 3 steps ahead is just general counter that you can then also copy your artifacts with. And then we have from Game Dive, they get one 5-0. This is mono white kind of tokens. So not the Caretaker's Talent version control. You have Starfield Shepherd for 2 mana warp. You can find a plains or a 1-drop creature. And then it's kind of built around Cosmo Grand Zenith, making you extra tokens. Split Skin Doll draws you cards. Voice obviously makes you tokens. Works nicely with Enduring Innocence. Nurturing Pixie can pick up stuff. Gives you some extra fodder for the Cosmo Guard. Novice Inspector, good one here. Just to find it with Starfield Shepherd, and then he'll let you draw cards. Zac Fair's kind of protection. Get Lost, Seam Rip as cheap removal. Shard Mage protection. Static Snare as removal, and then Elspeth on the top end. Then you have just more protection from targeted removal in Shard Mage. Day of Judgment. I guess for the go wide decks, this one's a little bit interesting. I guess just the decks that are going bigger, you kind of just become more of a control deck in that case. Exercise, Artifacts, Enchantments, big stuff. Devote Decree, red and black stuff. Ghost Vacuum for Graveyard Hate. Cathar Commando, Artifact, Enchantment Hate. And then Aven Interrupter as a counter. Good against your opponent's sweepers, stuff like that. And then Bezos for the grindier mid-range decks. Or just the aggressive decks, kind of helps you stabilize, gains you a bunch of life. That's it. Let me know what you think. If any of these decks jump out to you, if you think they're memes or they might be able to live the dream. And we'll catch you next week for the regular scheduled stuff. Thanks for watching.